Did you know Southwestern Montana is a bi-weekly podcast hosted by Wally Belt and myself, Jeremy Crawford. Wally and I pick a subject in history that happened in Southwestern Montana, research it, and then go over our findings. We hope you enjoy the show.
Did you know, Southwestern Montana and Jeremy, that Dillon was home to a miniature golf course early in our city's history? We'll chat about that a little later as we explore the history of golf in this chapter of Did You Know, Southwestern Montana. I'm Wally Felt, along with my partner in crime and producer, Jeremy Crawford. Good time to do it, Jeremy. The weekend we're taping this is the Masters weekend, a golf classic, and the golf course officially opened up. Good time to talk about golf.
Perfect time.
Now, I understand you have a couple of golf stories you're going to share, but not right now.
Right now.
We're just going to let you share them. Well, we're going to explore the early days of golf, and it's interesting because if you look at Dillon Tribune and the Dillon Examiner in the early days of Dillon, like the late 1880s and the first couple of decades in the 1900s, there wasn't much mention of the actual playing of golf unless it was somewhere else. But what was interesting in the Dillon Tribune and the Dillon Examiner, because in those days, and that's going to be another segment one of these days when we talk about the two newspapers that informed Dillon. And it's interesting, we talk about politics. That's why we had two newspapers, but that's another story. So, but anyway, those items in the Dillon Tribune involving golf, guess what they were about?
They were the clothing.
Yes, because for some reason golf clothing has always been popular, but in Dillon there was lots of golf clothing around, and there was also lots of golf jokes. Now, getting back to the golf clothing, they advertise golf shirts, and I think we're going to show an ad a little bit later on of the golf shirts.
We will.
Quite descriptive in how it makes you want to run out and buy one of those golf shirts. But what I didn't realize in those times, too, golf gloves. Now, when you play golf, wear gloves. So I'm right-handed, so I wear a glove.
Michael Jackson it.
Yeah, exactly. I wear a glove on my left hand. And now the pros, you watch the pros on TV, they are taking the glove off when they putt. There's an interesting story about that going back to the USGA, but once again, that's not something we're going to cover. My favorite women's golfer, Lexi Thompson, does not take her glove off when she putts. How's that? So, but golf gloves, we're going to have to invest. Hey, Mother's Day is coming up. Maybe you ought to get Carol a pair of golf gloves as a gift.
What do you think, Mom? Should I get you some golf gloves? She'd probably look at it and go, "Can I use these on the side-by-side?"
Yeah. But I'm thinking from the description in the ads and stuff, they were like little lacy affairs.
Yeah.
Golf clubs now, they're, I don't know if you would call them a fashion accessory. You might be, but I don't think so. But so, basically that was it as far as golf went in the early days of Dillon. Now, about 1920, I think it got a little more interesting because several business and professional men, they decided to organize a golf club. Now, several sites were proposed and talk of a possible clubhouse, but they decided then later that the clubhouse wouldn't be kosher because of the expenses. Now, there was an article about this same time, I have to read this, when they started discussing a golf club. So this is in the July 16th, 1920 Dillon Tribune. The headline is, "Golf Widows May Be Caused by Epidemic." If plans of some Dillon businessmen materialize, there may be golf widows here before the snow flies. Certain it is that businessmen who have been afflicted with golfitis before coming here have felt the call of the grassy slopes and bunkers and the word "for" is music to their ears. These are the men who are, for the moment, to build up a golf course this summer, and yet no definite steps have been taken. It is said that a clubhouse will probably not be built this year, at least, even if plans for building up golf links and forming a club should be successful. So we talk about the formal message of a golf club, and then it's countered with this, and there's no author.
Yeah.
There's no author to this, so guess.
There's a rumor, and it was starting to spread, and then it kind of got put off.
Now, you're a journalist, so I'm thinking if you're back in those days, you're saying, how can I have some fun with this?
Slow news day, maybe?
Yeah. Well, I think in those days, everything was a slow news day. Paper came out once a week. Oh, wait, it still does, doesn't it?
Yes,
okay,
it does.
Yeah. So the plans are, kind of the wheels are turning to get golf going, but it took 4 years for it to happen. May 28th, 1924, the official date, Dillon's first golf club was officially organized. And get this now, the Dillon Examiner reported Dillon followers of the Great Scotch Game, because that's where golf was originated, was Scotland, met to pass resolutions and appoint an executive committee. The course was laid out on donated land temporarily by Mayor Roscoe Cornell and situated just south of the city. Dues were $5 a year. Now, you and I tried to figure out where this could possibly be, and I talked to a couple other people, and we're just saying all the Cornell land south of town.
Yeah.
That has to be where it is.
Yeah.
That has somewhere out there, and not enough investigation, because 1924, we're looking at 97 years ago, roughly.
Yeah.
So who knows, exactly when, but that's a rough idea. And it's interesting because when I was a late starter in the game of golf. I didn't start till my late 30s. And I remember going to my grandmother and being all addicted to golf and telling her, and I was playing, regardless of whether the weather was, if there was sunshine out, I was playing golf. Well, she told me a little golf story that early in her marriage to my grandfather, they went out to a golf course in Dillon. And it was, she said, I remembered it was a par 3 hole, and they had the tee box on one little hill, and then there was a gully full of sagebrush and thistles and everything else. And then on the other side of the gully was the green. Only the green wasn't green, it was sand, because they didn't have green greens. And everybody was hitting, and I think there was like 2 or 3 couples playing. So Grandma was the last person to hit. So she gets up there, got instructions from my grandfather on how to hold the club, and and so she hits it, goes up in the air, down, hits the green or the sand. And remember, the sand, it was oiled, so to give it a little bit of a slippery finish, so to speak. And the ball rolled in the hole. And all the people are jumping up and down and are all excited and everything else. Francis got a hole in one. And my grandma said, I turned and I looked to Walter, my grandfather, and said, wasn't that what I was supposed to do? And I'm thinking, yeah, that's a great golf story. That's a great golf story. So, but anyway, so in 1924 now, September 12th, the golf club met in the offices of Dr. H.F. Best. And that was another thing I noticed doing all the research. And you probably noticed it too. Not very many people that were described in the newspaper article by their first name.
Yeah.
It was their first name initial and their middle initial. Yep. So should you and I start doing that?
J.D. Crawford.
W.C. Felt.
Nice to meet you, W.C.
J.D., nice to meet you too. So anyway, so back to that meeting on September 12th. So the first business they had, they assigned 2 members to each of the greens to keep them in shape. Now, nowadays, that'd be an interesting job. You know, you got you got those special mowers and stuff like that. Back then, I think it was just raking the sand and making sure it was smooth, and there was a mixed ratio of oil to sand.
Yep.
And that's all they did. And get this now, here's innovative. They decided they would give players scorecards. I mean, that's the standard. You walk in any golf course around, and they've got little boxes, you know, that they're on the front counter. They're on a couple of different holes, a little box you reach in, and there's a scorecard for the particular course. But it wasn't a thing in those early days. Of course, you know, you figured 1924, golf had already been around for a couple hundred years anyway. Yep. So moving ahead to the next month, so the meeting October 3rd, 1924, the Dillon Club met in the offices of, once again, Dr. H.F. Best to discuss plans for improvement and the repair of the local golf course. There was also discussion on hiring a maintenance person for part of the work, and that the members themselves should devote some of their spare time to work on the course. And that's been kind of a signature of this golf course out here too, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. Members that have been great in keeping and maintaining this course out here, and it started way back when. Now, the following Sunday, after this article appeared in the Tribune, a whole bunch of people showed up to do work on the course. Okay, now let's move ahead one more week. It was reported that members of the golf club had worked all week and had oiled and sanded the greens, built new tee boxes, and cleared the fairways of sagebrush.
There's some cactus too.
Yeah. Well, cactus. What prickly pear? Isn't that what?
Pear. Yeah.
In preparation of a tournament coming up. Okay, let's jump ahead to 1925. Okay, this is a very economically important meeting because the golf club met, and it wasn't the country club. It was called the Dillon Golf Club. 50 members. Pretty good.
Growing.
Pretty good, yeah. But, you know, they decided that it was time to raise the dues.
So they went from $5 to
$7.50.
Ooh.
And the good thing about this though is that dues, it's like you and Haley join the golf course at this particular time.
Yeah.
She can play, you can play, and when your kids visit, they can play.
All for $7.50.
That's a year.
And that was in 1925?
Yeah, that's in a year.
So today that is $112.72.
Wow.
Yep.
It's a lot more than that. A lot more than that. Okay, so in that very same meeting, plans were made when the weather improved. So, okay, March 9th, 1925, it sounds a lot like March 9th, 2021. Yeah. Well, and once again, the work party, you know what they had to do this time? They needed to clear the entire course of weeds and sagebrush.
Sagebrush seemed to be a problem.
Yes, it still is, but it's more of an excuse now when you hit a bad that sagebrush rolled in front of me. It broke my concentration. Okay, April 3rd, 1925, issue of the Dillon Tribune. The Thomas Bookstore had an advertisement offering a wide assortment of golf and athletic equipment. You know, we should go talk to Debbie and see if she wants to maybe add, a selection of golf balls and golf clubs to go with their books and stuff like that.
We need to record a reaction too when we ask her that.
Okay, so now in 1925, here's an interesting little piece of history that I discovered. There was a movement underway in Sheridan, Montana, to build a golf course. I have never heard of that one. The course was laid out at the Sunnyside Ranch. Once again, I'm not sure where the Sunnyside Ranch was over in Sheridan in Madison County, but they started to lay the course out, and for some reason, it didn't work out. I'm thinking too much sagebrush, maybe a few rattlesnakes or something like that probably got in the way. So they laid out another course at the Tilton Field. I did a little research, and Tilton was a common name for a while, and there may even be Tilton still over in the Sheridan area. So I'm thinking it was just land donated, and it was south of Sheridan. Okay, here we go. Another guy, L.F. Howitt of the Butte Country Club came down and laid out the new course, which he said when he was done, it was going to be the best 9-hole course in the state of Montana. Course supervisor was C.L. Elliott. Nobody's got a first name. Now, a year later, there was a story in the Madisonian about 2 Sheridan golfers, J.H. Hadzer and F.A. Brim, who spent a Saturday repairing the course in readiness of the summer session. That was the last mention I could find of the golf course in Sheridan.
Do you think it was typeset with the naming?
Oh, that could be. Yeah. That could be, yeah. But I'm wondering, and we don't want to get too involved in golf of Madison County, but I'm just wondering if maybe this golf course moved a little bit further. Now, what direction is Ennis from there?
Ennis would be, let's see, you go north, and then you go east, southeast, I'd say.
So maybe this golf course, maybe that became Madison Meadows in Ennis, which is a fun course to play. It's extremely frustrating course to play, but also a fun course, and that's what golf is, frustrating and fun.
No surprise I haven't played it.
No, I played it 3 times last year, and it kicked my rear end each time. Okay, so March 4th, 1926, that was the year my mom was born. The Dillon Golf Club appointed Hiram Brundage, Eugene Bond, and Lawrence Price. How about that? First names. To select a location for a new course. Okay, jumping ahead to September 28th, 1926. The Dillon Golf Club held a reorganizational, that's a mouthful, meeting. Officers were elected, and the name was changed from the Dillon Golf Club to the Dillon Country Club. The club authorized the bond issue of $2,500 to be used in the purchase and construction of a new 9-hole golf course on the old Conger property, which was 2.5 miles north of the city, roughly 15 minutes from Dillon. Now, this is where the Dillon Gun Club is, and so you have a better knowledge of that than I do.
Yeah, so the Dillon Gun Club is actually on the dump road. So you go up past the dump.
Well, it's a different place. It's a different golf club. We're talking about the one that's on the east bench.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm thinking of
the Trap Club.
The Trap Club.
Yeah,
okay, so the Trap Club, you go up the Blacktail Road. And then where the road takes that first really hard right-hand turn, instead of turning right and going down the Blacktail, you go straight on that road, and you'll go past a couple farms and a couple houses there, and then you'll come to a bridge, and it'll take you over the East Bench Canal, and you go over that, and then just right over there is where the Trap Club is.
And that's where the golf course was. Yeah. It was moved to the one we're talking about. Now, they sold bonds for $25 each, and construction began immediately. So basically, the people built their own golf course.
Yeah.
June 22nd, 1927, Ward. Now, we talked about initials and last name. In this instance, there's not initials. We don't know if it's first or last name. We just know it's Ward. So I don't know if it's Ward Cleaver from Leave It to Beaver, but it's Ward. He was in Dillon with the laying out of the new course. He was the golf pro from the Anaconda Country Club. In addition to his design work, he would be available for lessons. Okay, September.
Getting fancy.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking it was probably one of those things that when they get somebody to do something like that, they get him or her to do as much as they can for whatever fee they're paying them.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of the status has always been that way. When they're a golf pro, yes, but they're also taking care of the course. And you got to remember that those days, it looked a lot different.
Yeah.
And I have never seen the old course, never seen it. I started playing golf long after it was closed, but there was a lot of rounds of golf played out there on sand greens. Now, September 25th, 1927, perfect weather was the highlight. That was the headline in the paper of the 2-ball mixed foursome tournament. Now, I found family connections to this. My grandparents, Walter and Francis Tom, played with different partners, but played in that tournament. And guess what? Grandma Francis's team was 1 stroke better than Grandpa Walter.
Oh.
So way to go, Grandma. Now, on October 22nd, 1927, the Hiram Brundage team, Brundage, very, very...
Brundage,
yes. And this guy was quite the golfer. He won a lot of local Dillon tournaments and whatnot. He was quite the golfer. Also, he was one of the guys that grew the game of golf in Dillon. Well, now this is an interesting tournament. I've never heard of anything like this before. They held the first Dillon Country Club dinner match. Now, they had 2 teams competing against each other. Guess how many golfers were on each team?
2 teams, and each team was competing. 20.
You're close. 17 apiece. Normally, they're 4 to 5 people on one golf team. They had 17 each. Yeah. Well, and remember, the winning score in golf is the lowest number. So here's quite the score. So the winning score, and like I said, Hiram's team won 1,858 to 1,897. So they won by quite a bit, about 40 strokes. The prize, dinner, was bought by the losing team. And once again, my grandpa, Walter Stamm, was one of those 17 golfers on the winning team. So I'm wondering how long that thing took to play.
That's what I was kind of wondering about that.
Yeah, because they played it on one Sunday.
Yeah.
One Sunday they played it. So,
Sun
but I'm
up
thinking,
to sundown.
yeah, thinking they must have started early in the morning, and it didn't say whether they played 9 holes or 18. Yeah. But okay, so 1928, a putting clock was installed on number 6 green, and I saw 7 or 8,000 different definitions of what a putting clock is. Mainly, it's nowadays it's an instructional tool.
Yeah.
To help you with your putting. And I can't see an instruction. I can't see an instructional tool on an actual green. So, but anyway, and once again, this same year they installed the putting clock. They also resanded the greens. Yep. No grass yet. No Bermuda grass, no creeping bent grass, which are 2 of the more common grasses used on greens nowadays. They just had sand. So interesting. I've never played on sand. I know.
Do they still have it?
Yes, there are still some courses that have sand greens. So, and why do they call them sand greens anyway?
Of course, it's almost like it'd be a blacktop style green. Yeah,
it sounds better to say greens, I guess, than saying, "Hey, I was first on the sand instead of first on the green." So they also, at the beginning of that year, the quota for memberships was met, and there was a membership list waiting. So golf is starting to grow. Yeah. Now, in 1928, here's a name for you, Johnny Freckles Mallon. That was his nickname, Freckles, was the new pro at the country club. Now, his duties included giving lessons in the afternoon, but guess what his morning duties were?
Probably keeping up the green.
Yep.
Or
devoted to taking care of the course. Now, here's just a couple of early day golf highlights. Now, we talked about how good Hiram Brundage was. Well, he lost a tournament by 3 strokes to Frank O'Keefe in 1925. In 1929, Dr. A.H. McFarland, here comes the initials again, scored the first eagle on the Long Plain 8th hole. Now, an eagle is good, but a hole in one is great. An eagle is like you're on a par par 5. You tee it off, and your second shot goes on the green, or in this case, the sand, and then you putt it in on your third shot.
Yeah.
So that's the eagle. Not quite as good as a hole-in-one, which we remember my grandma had one. In 1931, Dillon's J.C. Weldon aced the 165-yard hole number 3. Now, the newspaper report didn't mention which club he used, or if he did what all golfers are supposed to do who score a hole-in-one, which is, you know what that is? I'm teaching you golf stuff.
You
now.
are.
Yeah. You have to buy a round for the entire clubhouse if you score a hole-in-one.
Oh, okay.
So the next, be aware of that
safe.
when you're ready to play. Yeah. So the ace was witnessed by 5 other golfers, and I'm thinking, wait a minute now. You know, they try and limit the number of people playing together to foursomes. Tournaments are sometimes a fifthsome, and I played 2 4-person teams in scrambles and stuff like that, but 6 golfers. Now, how many tall tales do you think came out of that round of golf? Now, here's something interesting. Now, I mentioned my opening thing was that Dillon in the early days was home to a miniature golf course. When I told you that, you were surprised.
Yeah, it was.
Because, you know, you talked about your days living in Utah. Yep. You enjoyed recreating at miniature golf courses.
Yeah, they had them all over.
Yeah. Dillon had one in 1930. It was called the Tom Thumb Golf Course. Now, nowadays they're also called executive courses. They, you know, to allow people to just get a quick round of golf in, or a par 3 course or whatever. So it was opened by Dillon car dealer D.A. Galt. Once again, initials. Have no idea what his first name is. I'm going to call him Dan. He opened the Tom Thumb Golf Course in August of 1930. The par 40 course was located on a vacant lot just south of the library. Now, you think about where that might be. In a Dillon Tribune article, the course was described as having all the standard hazards to challenge the skills of the veteran golfer and provide a new thrill to the novice golfer. For night golfing, how's this? The course was lit by 4 2,000-watt flood lamps. Night golfing, huh? So on the opening night, Albert DeWitt won scoring honors with a 49. Remember, it's 40 pars, so that's only 9 over. That's not bad. Well, Glenna Youtsey, I hope Glenna's not listening or watching, she won women's scoring honors with a 56. Both won a box of Terry's Best Candy. How's that for a prize?
Quite the prize.
Yeah. Now, Mr. Galt had some unique marketing ideas, too. One was where the man and woman with the lowest scores of the day would receive, and I like how he describes this, free charge of the course until their score is bettered. So basically, you pay for free till you beat your previous score.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good incentive to get.
Incentive not to?
Or yeah, it depends on how good how low or high your score was the first time. Now, one note, they mentioned the Dillon Rotary Club were guests of Mr. Galt after one of their weekly luncheons, and he treated them to a round of miniature golf. Here's something. Now we've talked about, you know, your police radio, your police scanner. Well, the course made the police blotter. August 21st, 1931. It seems that someone broke into the ice cream stand and looted, now this is from the Tribune, looted the place of a quantity of candy and soda pop, which was reported to the police. It was also noted in that same article that officers were making a careful search for culprits. The robbery was evidently the work of youngsters. Some things never change, huh?
Exactly.
So the course was open for only a few years, and I think I know why it was closed. Now, I asked you a little bit ago to think about where you think the course was.
I'm guessing it's where the park is, but then there was a school there.
No.
No?
No, it's post office.
Oh.
It was a vacant lot right next to the library.
Okay. Yeah, because I was trying to think. I was thinking it was either Because the old IGA building is too old.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, and I didn't know how old the post office
1937.
building was. Yep.
So you figure it was around for 5 or 6 years, entertaining people, and then just kind of away. But it wasn't necessarily the first miniature golf course in Dillon, which I learned that out at Pipe Organ, which is no longer around.
Nope.
Pipe Organ Lodge, they had mentioned that part of the stuff that they covered that they had for everybody was going to include, they had a trailer park.
Yep.
They had picnic grounds. They had a nice restaurant and, well, basically supper club. They also said they had plans for a miniature golf course. Now I couldn't find anything else if that ever came about, but that was in it. However, there was miniature golf days in Dillon were not over with yet, because in June of 1982, Don's Miniature Golf Course opened and entertained Dillon residents at the corner of Park and Reeder Street. The course was open weekdays noon to 11 p.m. and 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. on weekends. Cost $1.50 for adults and $1 for persons under the age of 15.
Pretty good.
Not sure how long it, once again, I don't know how long it lasted. It talked about the opening, but it didn't talk about the closing. And that Don Nye was the Don that started it. So, and talking to a few people, it was fun. Okay, so we're going to jump ahead now to 1963. Dillon golfers felt the need for a new home, and they were led by Dillon's Rat Pack. I thought the Rat Pack was, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis, but no, we had our own Rat Pack, and it was Dom Ory, Leonard Schultz, Walt Brundage. There's a very,
Brundage again.
Yeah, Paul Pooyer, Dan Carpita, and Ivan Remley. Now, the interesting thing, I'm gonna go over this as quick as I can without going into without reading it. But a few years ago, marking their 50th anniversary, a bunch of people from the golf course, and I believe led by Sally Banning, led the way putting together for history. So these people, the ones I just mentioned, along with several others that we could mention, Dillon people, Dick Later, Henry Stish, Frog Hull, Ted Hazelbaker, Dick Newton, Don Crosser, Chuck Nicholas, Bun Lodge, Neil Strozzi, Guile Mitchell, Mariner Ballard, just to name a few. I mean, you can look at this list of people here. There's a lot of them that had the influence to move the golf course from where it was on the hill on, what did I call that? East Bench.
Yep.
To a little more location that was a little easier for Dillon people. Now, Dom Ory approached Jim Womack for a suitable location, and Jim said, contact the county commissioners.
Yep.
And they struck a deal for 110 acres of what was called the Poor Farm. Now, you did a little research on the Poor Farm.
I did. It kind of had me curious because you were kind of baffled on what a poor farm was, and so was I. So I kind of started going through the Dillon Tribune and the Dillon Examiner, and I just started kind of going by years. And as what I started finding was I found, believe it or not, in the early 1900s, the paper would put every place that the county had to make payments to and what that payment was for. So is what a lot of the payments were for, where they were for the person that was in charge of the poor farm, and then it was for people that were laborers at the poor farm. The foreman of the poor farm got paid $150 a month. The cook got paid around $110 a month. And then the other thing I found out was a Beaver Head Public Contracts Notice, and this was on December 12th. I think it was 1921. And it said the county commissioners at their last meeting here awarded the contract for the management of the county poor farm and the care of the poor for the year to Neil Sharkey. The terms of the contract are that Mr. Sharkey pay the county $825 rental for the farm and receive 95 cents per head for caring for the poor. So I was like, looking at that, I'm like, what is a poor farm? Well, poor farms were an old version of basically like a welfare and handout system. So is what people would do is people that were down on their luck or that were kicked out or that were drifters or homeless, they would go to these poor farms to live. In exchange, they would get a certain amount of money each day they worked. They would get a meal and a bed to sleep in. The problem, though, was that the idea of, if you've ever heard somebody say you're going to drive me to the poorhouse, that's the exact same concept. A poor farm was a poorhouse. But they started looking at them as that they were a way to keep people poor because they didn't pay them enough money to really advance their lives. And they weren't fed the greatest of food. Usually it was like slop would be the best way to describe it. And they were usually sleeping in chambers that were very crowded, and they were ridden with rats and mice and lice and things like that. I don't know about the Beaverhead County one because honestly, it was tough to find any information on it. The only thing I could find were, where they would pay these people. And honestly, some of these people that were willing to work, they were making maybe $10 or $15 less than the cook. So I don't know if ours was a better form of a poor farm or not. And also some of the people were only making $2 or $3 a month. Well, they might just came in, needed a warm bed and a place to stay, got some food in their belly, worked a couple days, and then went back on the road. So but that's basically all what I was able to find on the poor farm was it was, the 1900s version before Social Security and other welfare acts. It was their way of taking care of the poor.
So basically, from what was probably not a very nice place, now it's a place that people can have fun, families can have fun.
Yeah. Yep.
So a deal was struck, and it was 110 acres, as I mentioned. 20 acres were given back and used for Ray Lynch Memorial Park, which now has softball fields out there and
Fireworks.
Yeah. The first lease agreement was signed on May 31st, 1962 between Beaverhead County Club President Jack Roberts and Beaverhead County Commissioner Chairman Harry Helming for not less than $850, and for the profit the club made above that amount to be paid to the county. That was the first agreement. So Don Morey, Clay Smith, and Nate Young were the key men in the design and layout of the course. You're going to get a kick how they laid it out, too. Nate Young was a surveyor for the BLM. Now, Dom and Clay designed the course by going on the property. Here were their tools. A yellow legal pad, a lawnmower, golf clubs, balls, and a tape measure. So Dom would go and tee off and go to where he was hit, mow a patch of grass, take the measurements, hit again, and design from hole to hole for 9 holes. And talking to Teddy Ori, Dom's son, he said basically what he would do is, because he was a very, very, very good golfer, so he would design a hole. For example, he would tee off, and when he got to that place, he said, okay, so what would it be if I hit a 7-iron from here to the green, or a 5-iron, or a 3-wood, or something like that? And so so he would mark, he would get to that place where the tee shot was. Then he would pull out the club that hit, whatever certain distance, and he would hit that, and that's how they designed the course. So, and I asked, Teddy, I said, what kind of lawnmower? And he said, I'm guessing a push mower.
Yeah, probably was a push mower.
But talk about an interesting way to design a golf course.
And to think about it too, they're just like, they probably have the ideas where the corner of the courses are and how far out it goes and stuff, but when you think about it now, when they probably design a course, they have aerial views of it, and then they probably start laying it out that way. These guys just laid it out by sight.
Exactly. And they walked the course.
Yeah.
There was no, so Nate Nate Young from the BLM, with his surveying skills and knowledge of landscaping. So between the two guys, between Schultz and Ori, with the push mower, or Clay Smith and Dom Ori with the push mower and the clubs and how they did it, and with the guys' surveying skills, that's how that course came to be. And now that I know this, when I play that course now, it's going to take on a whole new meaning. I'm going to say when I have a really bad shot or something, I say, "Why'd you do that, Dom? Why'd you put that there?" And when I have a really good shot, "Thank you, Dom. That was very nice of you." So, and here's the power of the people. Construction of the course was completely done by membership labor. Area ranchers and farmers brought in equipment to construct the course and the greens. Ivan Remley and Clay Smith spearheaded this effort. Smith and Max Neal spent many hours working on the fairways, and Remley built the greens. And these were real live greens. They weren't sand. They weren't going to be sand anymore. They were going to be greens. So the fairways were first seeded in the spring of 1963. And Harry Jensen, there's another popular Dillon name.
Yep.
He furnished the seed. Now, 140 members transferred to the new location. So the old course out on the hill had 140 members, which that's pretty good for a small. Yeah. And the sale of that old golf course, $25,000. That was used for construction of the clubhouse. Now, if you go out the course and look now, the old clubhouse is now a card house.
Yes.
So Dan Ivey of Ivey Construction won the bid for the construction of the facility. Dick Newton. Dick still plays golf.
Yes, he does.
I saw him yesterday when I played golf. He's out there, and I don't want to say he's a better golfer than I am, but I know he is. And Carl
got a few more years on you, though.
Yes. He still hits the ball pretty good. Did the finishing work on the inside of the clubhouse. Dan Carpita did the electrical work in the clubhouse, and John Burwell laid the floor. These are all Dillon people volunteering their time for the course. Now, irrigating the golf course, they did flood irrigation initially because the sprinkler system was, a little on the pricey side. So their very first sprinkler system was an iron metal screw-in kind. I'm not really sure exactly, except I'm thinking it was probably the most economical one they could afford back in 1963.
Probably like an irrigation system.
Yeah.
Where they screwed the heads into the pipes and turn them on, and the pipes might have been underground.
Well, get this. So Phil Taylor is the grandfather of Sleepy Hollow. He had a job back in 1963. I'm thinking Phil was probably a freshman or sophomore in high school. He was hired by Ned Newton, who was the first greenskeeper. He was hired by Ned to change the sprinklers every night. So he slept each night in a small shed on the course and set his alarm clock every 2 hours to get up and change the sprinklers. That's dedication. So in 1964, they did the temperatures where they sold $25 again per person to raise the money to buy a new set of sprinklers, which they came about. And in 1992, the sprinkler system that is in right now was put in place. Now, the early days of the golf club, it wasn't just a golf. It was a social area. Lots of stuff were being held. In fact, they had committees of couples who would host dinners and dances. Now, here's a funny one for you. They had a bottle club because they didn't have a liquor license, okay? So they brought liquor in, wrote their name on it. So you would write J.D. Crawford on your bottle of Pendleton, and I would write W.C. Felt on my bottle of Crown Royal. And we would put those underneath the counter. Well, guess what? They got caught. That ended when they were turned in to the state and the liquor was confiscated. And then right after that, they purchased a beer and wine license. And I think it's just been the last few years that they've been able to serve hard alcohol.
Yeah, and that's partially because the liquor license in Montana is very hard to
get.
come by.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think. which bar or restaurant closed, and they were able to.
The Dillon.
Was it the
Dillon? I wonder if it was the Dillon bar.
I'm not sure, but it hasn't been that many years. And, like everything else in life, women, the driving force. I'm thinking the women probably did more work than they were credited for, although this little history lists women like Clara Hazelbaker, Yvonne Hull, Barb Neal, Pat Ory, Gracie Puyyer, Dorothy Remley, Mary Schultz, Peggy Core, Elsie Cordell. Their husbands out there doing one thing. The wives are doing just as much work, and it takes a village. And what I'm seeing here is that village, everybody, everybody. And so a few first of the early days of the golf course. First lease agreement, May 31st, 1962. Here's one for you. First golf cart was an old Rambler owned by Don Morey, Walt Brundage, Paul Puyyer, and Leonard Schultz. The first executive board president was 1962, Jack Roberts. First greenskeeper, Ned Newton, which we talked about. First clubhouse manager, Stu and Pat Burwell. First Women's Golf Association president, Phyllis Burwell and Virginia Stroud. There's another common Dillon name. The first high school golf team, 1963 to 1964, Phil Taylor, Bill Burwell, and Pete Burwell, coached by Bun Lodge, of course. Bun Lodge, the BW Lodge Gymnasium. The three had a playoff to see which two went to state, played at the Missoula Country Club, and Phil and Bill were chosen to attend the tournament. Jim Core was the first coach to take a team to the state tournament. First women executive board president, 2011, was Sally Banning. Sally, I'm sure, she's a very meticulous young lady and put this history together. Now, 2003, that's when the new clubhouse came about, because there was some rearranging the stuff for the state highway out there.
Yeah.
And they had to move stuff around. The golf course made
they widen it?
Yeah, they made some money. They have a new clubhouse, which has been around since then. And once again, the new clubhouse built by members, by members only. Right now, that golf course is a very nice golf course.
Yeah, and that clubhouse literally has some of the members' blood and sweat in it, because there were a few accidents.
Yes, there were, and we won't go into those accidents, but they were there, and it's still a great place to go. Justin Roberts is the new pro out there, and he's done a great job. I mean, it seems like with each pro, something different has happened, something better has happened. The golf course has evolved, and there's golf leagues out there, and they serve food. They have wedding receptions out there. It's a great place. It's a great place to go. But we're not quite done yet.
Don't they do like a lunch special for anybody can go out there, right?
And Liz is you don't have to be a golfer. Liz is an awesome cook. She's been around Beaverhead County for many years. What can I say? Satisfying the palates of the hungry in Beaverhead County, and she's brought a lot of her special treats out there. And I believe they have prime rib on some nights.
Yeah.
And it's a great social connection right now. It's a great place to go. You don't have to be a golfer to go, and that's why I play out there, because I'm not a golfer. I just attempt to be a golfer. So, but we're not quite done yet. We're almost done. We're not quite done because we have a couple other courses to talk about. 1994. I'm not sure. Were you still in Dillon, or you?
I was a junior in 94.
So remember the Red Rock Golf Course?
I do.
South of Clark Canyon, 9-hole par 3 layout, beginning rates. Boy, you had to save your money for this one. $5 for 9 holes and $9 for 18 holes.
And you got rattlesnakes included.
Yep. There were certain places if you hit your ball there, your ball stayed there.
Yeah, I had some friends that went out there and killed a couple snakes.
Yeah. So the course had a driving range. You could rent golf clubs and you could rent pull carts. They emphasized the fact that all greens and fairways were grass. You know, somebody were saying, well, are they going to have sand grain? Nope, they're grass. There were no sand hazards on the course, but there were sagebrush hazards.
Yes, there was.
There were golf leagues as well. In fact, all golf courses that we've talked about have golf leagues. In 1999, there was a full-service RV park built adjacent to the course. Now, in 2000, there was a for sale sign on the clubhouse door. Golf still went on, but it wasn't long before it was sold and closed. But 21 years later, there are still remnants of a few holes out there.
Yeah.
Probably where the rattlesnakes were. That's probably where. Now, April 30th, 2005, the opening of the Sleepy Hollow Golf Course. 10-hole par 3. Yep, 10 holes, which made the course truly unique and special. It was designed by Dillon's Phil Taylor. We've already talked about Phil, about being the golfer.
There's a picture of it up there on the screen right now.
Gorgeous, gorgeous course.
It was.
Gorgeous course. And it was built on the old Carter Creek drainage. Now, Phil pretty much built the entire course himself. Hard work, and he transformed the fields covered with sagebrush. And we talked about this, the prickly pear fields.
Yeah.
Turned it into one of the most beautiful courses in Montana. Now, do you want me to go on, or do you want to tell your Sleepy Hollow golf story?
So Sleepy Hollow was actually the second time I played golf in my life. I did it for my friend Brett Jones. He was having his bachelor party up there. So what we did up there is for his bachelor party, you know, so wild and crazy, we went and played golf. And we broke up into teams of 2, and it was funny because I remember the guy that I chose to be with looked at me and he goes, "You don't know how to play golf, do you?" I said, "No." And he goes, "How many times have you played golf?" I said, "It's my second time." And he just had this look on his face like, "Thanks, guys, for screwing me." Because I think we all chipped in like $20 or $30, and the winner took the pot. We ended up winning. And it's funny because I'll never forget, because it's how we played it. Is we played it, you both teed off, and then the farthest ball you hit from there. And then
Best ball format.
Yeah, and the first time we got up there, we hit. He shanked his ball, and mine landed on the, like, I think it was probably like about 20 yards from the green. And the guy just sat there and stared at me like, how is this possible? But we ended up winning it. So, you know, that was my second and last time playing golf.
Well,
so.
I think you pretty much described that old adage, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, just had that form perfect on that first hit, and we ended up winning it. But yeah, it was kind of funny because when they called the score out and it was our names, everybody else there had been playing golf quite a bit throughout their life, and they all just kind of looked at us like, "How is this even possible?"
Well, yeah, you didn't have that many bad habits to worry about,
Yeah.
so you could just play naturally.
And, you know, my first time, I'll just tell the other golf story right now, too. My first time playing golf is in high school. We used to go and hit in the driving range. During the summer, we'd go get a bucket of balls, and it was like, I think, $5 for a bucket of balls. And we liked to time it, so the guy was out there in the cart picking up the balls, and we would, like, bet to see if we could hit the guy in the little buggy, and we never did. But, you know, we would always show up, and we'd be out there playing it, and I never had golf clubs, so we just walk out there with a bag of golf clubs and each pick a club and just hit. Well, then one day my friends were like, "We should all play golf." And I was like, "Okay." And again, Brett and my other friend Jason, they had played golf before, so they both had clubs. And I just went out there with them, hopped on the golf cart, and we went out, and I used their clubs on the first hole and used their clubs on the second hole. Well, by the third hole, a girl came screaming out there on the golf cart with a bag of clubs, and she's like, "You can't do that. That's not kosher." So I got a little golf lesson that day, too, that you don't use other people's golf clubs.
Yeah, they kind of frown on that a little bit, but... Well, we're going to have to get you out there again. We're going to have to get you out there. You're tall.
Yeah.
You should be a good golfer.
Got a lot of weight to put behind the ball.
Well, we'll just teach you how to use your hips better. Yeah. So the course featured a beautiful clubhouse, and the rental clubs and carts were available. There was a driving range and a putting green. There were men's leagues, women's leagues, and the course was host to many social events, including wedding receptions and class reunions. And the course was very, very challenging. You could either play really good or really bad. It was really easy to do. And the one that I liked is, Phil had mentioned, that he put water on every hole except for the par 4, the first par 4. There was no water on that, just lots of sagebrush on either side of you and lots of hazards, which I lost lots of balls. But in looking for my lost balls, I always found one or two other people, so I always broke even. But water hazards. Yeah. And in those ponds, there was rainbow trout. He put rainbow trout in there. And there were some golfing visitors that came here, and they came to Sleepy Hollow with two things. They came with a fly rod and their golf clubs. And they would fish a while and play golf, or vice versa. And it was Phil's only criteria was you needed to throw the fish back. You couldn't keep them. And there was some pretty good sized rainbows in there. But there was a multitude of wildlife. Yeah. Deer, they weren't welcome because they like to walk across the greens. But there was also sandhill cranes that nested, red and yellow winged blackbirds, and that there was a family of turtles in the far pond. That you would count the baby turtles every year, and the spectacular view. The one thing that I remember most is standing on the 9th hole tee box and looking over and seeing the gorgeous Pioneer Mountain Range. Not too many people can say they do that. I miss Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, it's funny because I only played golf that one time there, but there's plenty of times after high school and stuff, we would drive up that side of the country, and just out of all the places I've ever been, it was probably one of the weirdest spots to see a golf course, but it was also one of the most beautiful golf courses.
Yes, it was. Really was. Phil worked his tail off in that course. He did. You would always see him out there, and, thank you, Phil, for doing that. In the fall, which was interesting, towards the end there of the course, he designed that so well that it became a great cross-country course. Yeah. High school ran their cross-country meets out there, and the first year of the college cross-country team, I believe Dylan Zitzer ran his cross-country meet out there as well. And I know, I miss playing out there. It was a lot of fun, but when I did play out there, my short game improved greatly, because that's where you score from, is your short game. And I think the 10th hole was my favorite hole. There were certain places you could hit on the green that if you hit it just right, the ball would just naturally roll to where it needed to go. Yeah. But Phil, he also made that hole extremely tough. I remember once there was 3 of us out there playing, and we were all within 2 feet of the pin, and all of us bogeyed the hole. Because where he had placed it, it was just a tremendous course, and thank you. The course was sold a couple years ago, no longer a golf course, now home to horses instead of duffers. Yep. And now southwestern Montana, golf.
Yeah, the history of golf in Dillon.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's kind of funny, we did talk about the Pipe Organ Lodge, but just to kind of give people an idea of how crazy this place was, there's a picture of it up on the screen. And that's miniature golf course fits perfect with something like that.
Yes.
We don't know for sure if they ever did it or not, but
where would you, if you were going to put a miniature golf in Dillon today, if somebody gave you $100,000, said, I want a miniature golf course, where do you think a good place would it be to put it?
I would want it centrally located, just so people could walk to it. So I would say probably maybe across behind Safeways and some of that open field over there.
We need one.
We do.
We need one. I mean, they're fun. They're fun to play.
They are.
They're fun to play. They got to help your putting a little bit.
Growing up, well, not really growing up. I was already an adult. I don't know if I've
we never really grow up. No.
But, when my son was like 2 or 3, we lived in Utah. So we would always go to a place called Boondocks down there in Utah. And they had a really, really fun miniature golf course. And then the last couple of years I lived in Utah, they had Fiesta Fun. And they had a really fun golf course, and they always had the golf cart or the go-karts and other things to kind of keep you occupied too. But, miniature golf, it's kind of just a little fun way to go kill a couple hours.
Well, and it's a nice family sport.
Yeah.
Actually, golf is a family sport. Yeah. They've got the Hook a Kid on Golf program that the Kiwanis started a few years ago, and it gets little guys and girls involved in golf at an early age, and once they make it through those preliminary stages, because golf is a very, very frustrating sport when you first start, but what they're doing is they're giving these kids proper instruction. And they're giving them instruction in golf etiquette, which, quite honestly, a lot of people need to revisit their golf etiquette, because there's a lot of people that don't really practice golf etiquette the way you're supposed to. But Hook a Kid on Golf is introducing the kids. And then they've got the PGA Youth Leagues. And then, Justin is also the coach of the high school. So you've got these steps where kids are, helping grow the game of golf in our area. Yeah. And it's great because, it's frustrating when there's a lot of people out there and you have to wait between holes. But what better family entertainment is there, or hanging out together? And, you can have your little friendly wagers between dad and son, or mom and son, or whatever like that. And it's great, healthy family entertainment.
And the teaching of etiquette, that kind of goes for all sports, because all sports have a sort of etiquette to it. And it seems like that's something, as we're teaching, we're so focused on, becoming the best at that sport, that we kind of forget about teaching them the etiquette in that sport too. And I see that with everything. Like I see it with fishing. I see it with, like, when you go out to the shooting range, you see it out there. Etiquette in sports, that's kind of one of the things sports was supposed to teach. And I think the hustle and bustle life and the competition that we've created with life anymore, we've kind of forgot that.
Well, you figure just the basic etiquette on the golf course has been around ever since golf has, and it's like, and I don't always do it, is when it's like after you play around, you're supposed to take your cap off and shake the person's hand, but you're supposed to take your cap off, and you watch the guys on TV, and they do it. Yeah. Some don't.
Of them do.
Some don't. Some don't. It's kind of, but for most of them do, and and not talking when someone is putting, or even hitting on the tee box, and the fact that you don't walk in front of. I mean, if somebody's got their ball and is lining up for a putt, you don't walk in front of them on the green. You walk around them. Yeah. And they're just really tiny little things, but they all add up to, getting the bigger picture. Yeah. And for the most part, I would say 95% of the people I play golf with, they're great with etiquette. And and every once in a while you run into that one person that is not, likes to talk, likes to smoke his cigarette, doesn't mind walking it over where your line is and whatnot. But luckily, those guys are strictly in the very extreme minority. Yeah. And that's a good thing. Do
you think that golf etiquette came from where golf originated from?
Oh, yeah.
To stop the fights?
Well, golf originally,
Scottish.
Yeah. And
Scots are crazy.
The evolution, but I think that was the only time that, they kept their kilts in order.
Yeah. It's funny because, I've got a lot of Scottish heritage in me, and I've done a lot of research on it, but it's just funny because Haley and I, we started watching this show on Stars where it had some people, from this one movie, I can't even think of the name of it, but they go across Scotland and, they talk about the Scottish traditions and stuff, and they visited some of the golf courses and that. And, it's funny because you talk about the etiquette of golf, but I think it was to keep the Scottish people in line because they were...
Well, they called it the Game of Kings for a long time.
Yeah.
A long time it was, you and I, the regular Joes...
We would never be able to
We would not be playing golf. But then it started evolving into that, and and St. Andrews. My mom went there on vacation, brought me back a brought me back a scorecard, and then a couple other friends of mine went to St. Andrews, and they brought me back the wallet or whatever that you put the scorecard in. And it's, those courses over there, they're not easy, and weather in Scotland is not very good.
Nice.
If you've ever watched a British Open, you're wondering how the heck did they ever invent a game like that? But they did, and I thank them for it.
Yeah.
I thank them for it. So,
it's something when I drive by and I watch the people out there. I mean, you can tell some of these people have the dedication that they have for that sport because they're always out there no matter what.
I never liked the P word, but I think in order for one to be better in golf, practice is a necessity.
It is, and
so
it's kind of funny because when I lived in St. George, they actually had specials on their golf course after it got over 100 degrees. That's how much they took off if you wanted to play a round of golf. So
Vegas,
if it was 105, they took $5 off your round of golf.
Vegas was, when I lived in Las Vegas, they were a little better than that. They took quite a bit off if you wanted to play golf in the heat of the day. But I don't want to play golf in 100-degree weather.
Yeah.
But
You'd still see those select few out there playing it.
Those are the diehards. Those are the diehards. Yeah. Yep. So, and this real quick, here's a picture of this is a picture of an old wood. This is probably circa early 1960s, a real live wood. This is a 4-wood. And then you look at a club that I use occasionally. This is a hybrid 3-4. And you look at the size difference. And as one thing Jeremy did, he held them in his hand. There was also a weight difference.
Huge weight difference.
This is actually a bigger club. You can look at it. It's longer. The head is bigger, but it's lighter.
Yep.
So, but this is real live wood.
Yeah. Yep. Well, the other one's graphite.
But if people still say, "Oh, I hit a 3-wood" or "I hit a 4-wood," every once in a while somebody will say, "I hit a 4 hybrid" or "I hit a 4 metal."
Yeah.
But anyway. So anyway, well, we hope that we helped educate you a little bit on the history of golf in Beaverhead County. I know as I do when I do research on these, I always learn something.
Yeah.
I had no idea there was a course built in Sheridan, and I want to do some more investigating to see what happened to it. So if anybody knows a little of that history of Sheridan, give us a shout out on either Facebook or YouTube, and let us know, because it's fascinating.
It is. It's really interesting, to find out just how many of these little pop-ups there were that just kind of get lost with time.
Well, and that's just it. Lost in time. That's the perfect description. And you and I have talked about that. We've discovered stuff like that, and it shouldn't be lost in time. There should be some remembrance of it somewhere, even if it's a program like this, or if it's a short 3 or 4 lines in the history book. You got to talk about stuff like that. But anyway, Jeremy, thank you again for another good show. We're trying to come up with somewhat of a schedule, but it doesn't always work out. But we also want to make sure that we have the most accurate information possible. So if it takes a little longer than our every other week, then it takes a little longer.
Yep, we shoot for every other week, but sometimes life gets in the way, and
we would appreciate anybody if you've got a suggestion.
Yeah, if somebody has a suggestion, or if you're an expert in something with the history around southwestern Montana and you just want to talk about it, you're more than welcome to.
And we have prizes too if you come to be our guest.
We do. We'll give you a cup. And
by the way, Glenn, who was on the radio program, he said I finally sent it to him. He said it's perfect sitting on his back porch in Austin, Texas, drinking coffee in the morning.
That's good.
He said perfect size for my coffee while he reads outside. So.
Yeah. Want to give a big, huge shout out to Andy for the cups.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it.
Custom cups from...
You've got my name on it.
Yeah, from Big Time Sportswear and Design. So
yeah. So anyway... on that note, I'm going to say it's golf time.
I think you need to go hit another round.
In Beaverhead County.
All right.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you, Wally.
Take care. This program brought to you by Southwest Montana News and produced by Jeremy Crawford.
Where the channel was once a great May grow long until light is dead. And when that day comes, that gallery will be mine instead. A long, 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 long time ago, before I blew myself astray, when I was shaky and crudely away. But that was half a life away. From half a lifetime away, a distant space and a strange sunrise. Curated by the